Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Starrapter, joined by Milton and Ben. We got the full crew back this week for Outer Rim transmission number 22. On this week's episode, we're going to break down the brand new Lego The Skywalker Saga trailer that came out of Gamescom. All gameplay in that one. Plus, we're going to be talking about a rumor that just popped up dealing with the Book of Boba Fett. And finally, we'll close out on a new Disney Plus release for Star Wars this week. It was Star Wars, I'm going to screw up the title because it's so annoying all the time. It's Disney Gallery The Mandalorian Season 2 finale. I think that's it. So we'll break that all down.
The Season 2 finale or something.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a long title,
name.
trust me.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, man. So I'm going to throw it to Milton because we haven't seen you in a couple weeks, man. So how you been?
Oh, I thought it's only been 1 week, but it feels like a while, doesn't it? It's crazy. You take 1 week off and it feels like I've been gone forever. I've been good, man. Just, life, family time, anytime I have family stuff going on, it takes me away from the podcast. However, it's nice to be back and talk Star Wars with the fellas. I thought last week's episode was really good. I think it was Steven that you had on last week.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was a really good fill-in. You guys had a lot of good conversations. So, yeah, man, it's nice to be back.
Oh, heck yeah. And we did get your quick review for the Bad Batch season as a whole. Do you want to just give us like a quick 2 minute to 5 minute whatever you want to talk about it real quick to get anything off your chest about that season 1?
Pretty much like I said last week in my little mini review that I sent, it felt like a roller coaster. It was very up and down for me. Strong start. Strong, solid, premiere for sure. I think, like I said last week, it set unrealistic, expectations for the show because I was convinced that episode was going to be every episode. Again, even those episodes after the premiere were still strong and was leading to a strong narrative, but then we started to get away from that, where that's when the show dipped. Then we go back to, Cad Bane showing up, then it goes up, and then some Empire stuff, then it go back down with side missions that didn't mean anything. So again, it was very up and down. I'm hoping that the Lucasfilm, animated team will learn from their mistakes for this past season into next season, because I feel like they have to be watching reviewers or seeing the comments on social media saying that, hey, season 1 was strong, but it didn't end well. Even the finale, I think Ben makes a great point. The finale probably should have been a mid-season finale. It would have been great that way, but however, they ended it that way. So, again, I'm hoping that Lucasfilm learns from their miscues. It's probably the best word to use instead of mistakes, miscues, and say, hey, let's make sure we're telling a strong narrative and that we're focusing on our central characters and getting away from all the silliness. Because I think at this point, and I hope Lucasfilm thinks about this, a lot of the fans that are watching Bad Batch are fans that are like our age, I'm thinking, at least mid-20s to 30s, because we're the ones that were coming out of the prequels into the Clone Wars, and we were in our mid to early 20s at that point. So again, you have to understand your audience. I think they kind of forgot that their audience are the ones that are in the 30s and early 40s who are say, hey, we're really invested in this particular part of Star Wars, because that's still kind of, it's prequelish, but in entering the original trilogy. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said, and I think you brought up a great point, a few great points as always, is first off, managing expectations in the way that it's set the bar high up from the start, and then we kind of started going lower than the bar for the majority of the season, where there were some ups, but mainly a lot of downs for the most part, and I don't know if they could really heed a lot of the feedback, because we got to realize, especially with animation, is they're doing this so far in advance, so their hands might be tied. Like, hey, they might be able to adjust maybe season 3, but as far as maybe something as simple as the episodes in the season, like I feel like there's episodes they could have literally cut out of the season to kind of to make it a little bit shorter, to make it more impactful. So I know at the very least they can mess around with the episode order, maybe based on like the feedback. Like, okay, people really want this to hit harder. Let's maybe save that episode for season 3 if it's not going to really fit into the overall narrative. Stuff like that. Getting into our week in Star Wars, I will start this one off because I really don't have much to talk about that is all that big for me this week. I'll share just a quick story I had with a client at the gym that I work at. He was talking about Battlefront 2. We were just, shooting a crap about certain video games. And he's like, hey, what's new? I'm just like, I'm playing Psychonauts 2. It's an awesome game. And he's like, I didn't even know this guy was a gamer. Next thing you know, he's talking about Battlefront 2, playing with his son on split screen. And I'm like, oh, that's great, because he's talking about him playing Darth Maul and his son is taking him down with Han Solo. And he's like, oh, I'm such a disgrace at the game because I'm Darth Maul and Han Solo's shoulder charging me with that cheap move that he uses. So I just got a kick out of that. It was nice to kind of just share a story with Battlefront 2, because it's, there's not a lot of Star Wars games to choose from of the recent variety. So it is nice when we get, especially that split screen co-op. There's like a whole thing going on with Halo right now where we're not going to get the Halo Infinite co-op at launch and all this kind of stuff. So it is nice harkening back to those good old days of you just sitting on the couch playing with your friends, and even the old school Battlefronts, from 2005. I remember vividly of just like laying down in my friend's loft in his trailer down the shore, and we were playing Battlefront like for hours. So just fun memories of reliving through all the Battlefronts for me. It was basically what I came up with at the last minute here.
Oh yeah, I mean those games, they were all iconic for their time. They're revolutionary. Like, they I feel like they have such a almost cult following, mainly just because with those type of games, those games specifically, you really get to dive into the Star Wars universe and like explore it. And that's always been my appeal for Battlefront. It's not really I guess you would say, I'm not going into it looking for it to be like an experience like Halo or something, or something like big and crazy like that. Like, my main thing I love about Battlefront, I just love getting into the Star Wars universe, and going and exploring Geonosis or Naboo or wherever. Like, that's always just so much fun to me, doing it that way.
Heck yeah. And we're going to talk about a new Star Wars video game in a few minutes. But first, I want to throw it to Ben, man. Any new Star Wars experience you had this week? Anything notable?
Yeah, well, I didn't really have anything too crazy up to this point because, as we all know here, I've been just like going crazy, grinding away on Madden. But I actually had my week in Star Wars happen today. So my sister and I were over visiting my grandma, and she was like, "Oh, hey, man, I was at Goodwill today, and I found you a Star Wars book for $2." I said, "Oh, what is it?" And she found me the entire Star Wars Lego encyclopedia book.
That's great.
And it's like this big thick book, and it literally has like everything possible Lego in the entire book, like from characters to vehicles to like all that stuff. Like, and whoever had it, they took the Darth Vader figure out of it, but hey, it's another book to add to my collection.
It's funny you mentioned that about the Lego books. So I work at a retail job on weekends, and we also like have a book section, and they always have some kind of Lego book, and there's never the minifigure in there. Somebody always just cops out the Lego figure every time. That's just there. It's always there. It's always taken.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Lego. I mean, Legos. I don't know. It's just people love them, and they're like with the minifigures, for example. You can just pop them and go. I mean, but yeah. So that was kind of my little week in Star Wars. Just happened today. It's cool. It's always cool. My entire family, they all know me as like the Star Wars guy in the family. So anytime they see anything Star Wars, no matter what it is, they just buy it for me. Like, it can be just random books like this, or different things. Well, heck, even last summer, my cousins found a puzzle of Finn from The Force Awakens, and they got it for me. And the first thing I thought about was like, oh man, I know I'm gonna regret putting this together, because it was like 1,000 pieces, but it was used. It was like from a garage sale. So I was like, I know I'm gonna put it together, and it's not gonna have certain pieces or something. But I was like, let me do it anyway. And I put that together, and literally the main part, there were missing pieces, and the main parts that were missing, like there was a piece missing on his eye, a piece missing on his face. And I'm like, oh, man, like I just put like 980 some pieces together, and the final 20-ish, 15, 20-ish pieces are from the main picture of the puzzle. And, that's always the fun of finding new Star Wars stuff like that, though.
Yeah, and I do want to shout out the chat. We have a lively chat going on here. You guys can always watch us live on YouTube every Friday around 9 o'clock Eastern. We have Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy, saying, hey, what's up, Ben? He's also part of the Star Wars Underworld and the IPC podcast, so definitely go check those out. Those are two podcasts that are inspiration for me actually sitting here talking to you guys tonight. We also have Adam from Red 5 Reviews. He's awesome. He does these Paper Movie Club, which is like they review these novelizations of movies like from the 80s or whatever era, really. A lot of sci-fi genre type of stuff. So his Red 5 Reviews is all about Star Wars. And we have my good buddy Chad. He's chiming in on our Battlefront discussion, so I wanted to make sure we talk about that before we move on too far. He's talking about he loves the games, especially Jabba's Palace, being able to take the time to explore Jabba's Palace. He is the friend of mine, I think I've mentioned in the past on the podcast, that is totally obsessed with the Bomar monks. Yes, those spider creatures with the brains. So I wanted to shout out Chad on the chat because he's always wanting to know from me, like, is there any new canon update on any new information related to the Bomar monks? And so far, there really hasn't been much exploration for those that are interested. There was a Escape from Vader's Castle comic book that had to do with them now, and that was the most actual expansion of those characters we've gotten in literally years. So check that out. We have Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy, saying the original Battlefront 2 was just so special, in my opinion. Being able to run around, visit classic locations, jump into a vehicle, and just have fun was so great. I miss playing it online. Broken heart. Yeah, so I think you can still play.
He's not wrong. I mean, that Battlefront 2 played for PlayStation 2, so good. And I'm telling you what, you know me, guys. I'm always on the hunt, looking for old video games or that type of thing. I guarantee you, the moment I see that, it's getting bought. Facts. Like, I'm not going to say no to it. I don't care how much it costs. I just bought Rogue Squadron. I need to get the trilogy. I need to get the trilogy of games for Rogue Squadron. But yeah, I'm buying Battlefront 2 when it's available. Trust me, I will find it.
And speaking of
not even kidding, like, it's the truth.
And speaking of video games and things that you're buying that have to do with Star Wars, have you come across anything new or watched any cool Star Wars videos lately, Nolan?
Yeah, I mean, as for games, like I said, I haven't been on the hunt in the last week or so. Trust me, but that will change soon. Cause I know I'll make a trip down to Maryland or Virginia sometime in the next couple weeks. But as for Star Wars videos, I mean, obviously with me watching that Mandalorian special that was on, and I know we'll talk about that later, that got me into thinking of what happened to Luke post Return of the Jedi. So I was looking on YouTube and stuff for like videos about what was he doing, how was he trying to, because we still don't have a lot of stories in canon with that. So I was looking through legend stuff and just even revisiting some of the old books, and it's amazing just the rich stories that were being told by these creators. So it's nice going back, just seeing those stories, like seeing him rebuild the Jedi Order, at least attempting to, dealing with the Yu Zhong Vong and, dealing with Darth Caedus, which is his nephew, dealing with his son, Ben Skywalker. People forget that he had a son in Legends. Was it Jaina was his niece, Jason was his nephew, Anakin was his other nephew who died due to, was it that planet? No, the planet fell on Chewie. Spoiler alert. Yep. In Legends. So like it's just
in the
always
first book.
going. In the first one. So it's always nice revisiting. And I remember going back and looking for, I think it was the first Yu Zhong Vong book. Mark Hamill did a trailer, a voiceover for that book release.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, my God, how that still holds up. And I'm like, man, we need this. And after watching that special for The Mandalorian, and again, we'll get into that heavy, I'm thinking, man, Disney, you have a ripe opportunity to really bring in the fans and really connect us again with that character, but also unite the fan base, I think, with that particular character. So, yeah. So that was my week, just looking through old videos of what Luke was doing post Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have that Battlefront 2 level where you're playing as Luke. He's going to Pilio, and we know that the Emperor has like these observatories all throughout the galaxy that are these like vaults. And we learned about the vault last week. We were talking in depth about it with Steven and Ben last week about Mount Tantus, right? And we also have the location of Wayland, which is very synonymous with the Thrawn trilogy. And you have that's where George Sabaoth is, kind of guarding over all that stuff that the Emperor left behind. So there's definitely a lot of significance related to that, and how we're going to get more ramifications that might relate to the Thrawn trilogy. So super exciting stuff there. But yes, we are going to be talking all about that special on the latter half of the program tonight. So getting into what released this week. So we had 2 new comics that relate to the what is it called? The War of the Bounty Hunters. There we go. War of the Bounty Hunters. We have issue number 15 of Darth Vader, which is kind of like a flashback story that deals with Ochi of Bestoons. Yes, that guy from Rise of Skywalker is getting a lot of layers now. He's gotten a lot more character development, and it's all about him and how he is becoming loyal to Vader. Vader throws him this test, basically leaves this guy for dead to the Crimson Dawn, and he fights off all these people. And he basically ends up bowing to Vader at the end, being like, I am loyal to you. I will not betray you and all this stuff. So he gets thrown a rigger and he survives. So we also have Dr. Aphra, issue number 13. And she is on that ship at Jakara where everybody's meeting to auction off for Han Solo. And she has found Vader, that Vader shouldn't know she's alive. Or at least if he finds out that she's alive, she's definitely going to die by his hand. So she's trying desperately to get away from him. He's a little bit occupied at the moment, and she finds with Sana Solo a vault containing very valuable things on the lower decks of the ship. Of course, they get found out by the guard droids. They get knocked out, and that's basically what happens in that. And then coming out this next week, we have some comics relating to Star Wars, The High Republic. We have the High Republic Adventures issue number 8 and the High Republic issue number 9, but we also have the audio drama that is coming out. That's going to be all about the character Lorna D. So our first Star Wars The High Republic audio drama is going to be out. So I'm very interested to see like all those characters getting voices now in my head as I read, because I usually read. I don't usually listen to too many audiobooks. So it's going to be cool kind of putting a voice to the character for a change. So this is a big rumor. So if you guys really don't want to know anything at all about the upcoming series, The Book of Boba Fett, you might want to skip ahead, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or something, because I don't think we're going to talk any longer about it than that. But we just had this report from LRM Online, Latino Review, as you guys might have remembered them, giving a lot of scoops for The Force Awakens. They are stating that none other than Cad Bane is going to be in The Book of Boba Fett. So there you have it. A lot of people were hoping, expecting. LRM earlier this year told us that Bosk was going to be in The Book of Boba Fett. And I kind of expect this to happen because it's going to be all about the underworld. It's going to be all about the bounty hunters. So they're going to bring in the big guns here. And we've already got that, introduction to Cad Bane here in the Bad Batch, and it kind of seemed like it was very short-lived in the Bad Batch. I'm almost like, why did he even appear? Because he didn't really have that many ramifications going on for the later half of the season after he appeared in the middle of the season. But now, after reading this report, and this is a rumor, so taking it with a grain of salt, but then again, these guys have a reputation for being pretty accurate when they put out rumors here. It makes sense that he's in Bad Batch because, they're going to try to introduce people ahead of time in animation, be like, hey, you might want to pay attention because this same guy might be in the live action series later on this year. So I'll throw it to Milton first. I know you're a big fan of Cad Bane. I know you weren't the biggest fan of Cad Bane in Bad Batch, but Clone Wars by Cad Bane, what are you expecting to see for him in the Book of Boba Fett?
I expect him to be the Cad Bane from Clone Wars. Everyone knows, like you mentioned, I'm a huge fan of that character. Just because I just like his attitude. I like that he's one of those, I wouldn't say overpowered bounty hunters, but like he's a threat. And I enjoy that about him, and I enjoy his character and how he's just very much, he kind of reminds me of a professional wrestler. I really like Stone Cold Steve Austin, if you guys are big fans of wrestling, because he just has a I don't give a shit attitude. I'm going to do what I want to do. and I'm going to tell you I'm going to do it, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Whether he gets his butt kicked or not, he's still going to come back all the time. And I just enjoy how they developed that character over Clone Wars. What I'm curious to see how they do this character in live action. Will it be CGI? Will it be a mix of practical effects and CGI? I'm curious because I think we're going to want to see that expression come out with that character. So I'm curious how they're going to make him look. I'm excited for it. Again, I trust Filoni, I trust Dave, or I trust John and their whole team. So yeah, I look forward to this project, and I look forward to what they're going to do with this particular character because again, first time in live action, is going to be very interested to see what they do with him. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we got Ben Hart in the chat chiming in. He's saying, speaking of great comebacks, Bane, I know he's got a rabid fan base. He's really just out there. People have been wanting to see him for years. So when he did appear in Bad Batch, it was like it took over Twitter, everything. It was awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's the big question, Milton, you're posing is, hey, is he going to be CGI? Is he going to be a practical effect? I'm hoping he's going to be a practical effect because I kind of, liken it to Kuehl from season 1. He was a short little guy played by, I forget what the actress's name is, but then we had Nick Nolte doing the voice of him. So right. I would like something like that. They could do that, right? Get the original voice of Cad Bane and just get somebody else as a body double.
I totally agree. I think that's I mean, to me, it would make sense because his voice is very distinct. And I know that they probably use synthesizers and other technology to make his voice more like, because he wears like an apparatus, from my understanding, or from what I remember, correct? So like you tubes. Want that thing with him. So again, you can do that. And here's the thing: I'm not going to be beholden to saying, well, it's got to be, it has to look like this particular human that's in real life. It's like, no, he's an alien. So that's going to be fine to me. So as long as you make him look like the character from the animation in live action and keep the voice the same, I'm totally fine with it. I'm just kidding. It's going to be very nice to see how they do it. And I think they'll get it done. I mean, the technology's there. So I'm not worried about it. But like I said, I always got to cross my fingers because you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ben, do you think we could get a rematch between Boba Fett and Cad Bane in these very episodes of Book of Boba Fett?
Well, I mean, from my knowledge, that gunfight, isn't canon or anything. So that we really haven't had that technically happen yet. So I think there's a chance that gunfight is going to be made canon. Like I remember I was talking to one of my friends about this months ago. I think that gunfight is going to be made canon through the Book of Boba Fett. I was thinking that 3-4 months ago. And then now we have this news about Cad Bane. It really makes me think that's what we're going to have. Most likely, if this does turn out to be true, I feel like it'll definitely be the season finale of the show. Like, you can't have a gunfight between them in the first episode. I mean, then again, if you do, that would be a way to kick the series off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a good chance. Like, we'll definitely get that. But again, a lot of this does fall into the whole thing of how will we get from point A to point B, which let's say would be the gun, like the face off between those two. What is going to lead us to that point in the show itself?
I think what could be a very possible reality here is we see how he looks. He has that kind of head apparatus already, that cloth or whatever it could be thing on his head. So a lot of people are already saying, oh, it already happened. Like this thing on his head already makes it happen. What happens if they actually tell that story in a flashback? Because we know it's going to have flashbacks in it. What happens if they get Daniel Logan, who did the younger version of Boba Fett, to actually appear with like the helmet and a different kind of costume, but then you still have that Cad Bane there, and you do a flashback to like 20 years prior? That would be freaking cool.
Oh yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. I know Daniel Logan's like pretty much said he would like to be back in some capacity in something. So you have him out there, and he is like a perfect age right now to kind of play a younger Boba Fett. So that would be pretty cool. And then like with Cad himself, whoever can play it, I feel like they're just gonna have to find. To me, I feel like the best way they should do it, in my opinion, is I think they should use motion capture because look how Snoke was. Snoke had great facial expressions. Say what you want about the sequels. Snoke had, really good facial expressions and facial movements and all that. And, he's an alien. So, if you do something like that with CAD, I feel like it could work, on your up close shots, and then your further away shots, have more practical looks, or, when you're not as detailed. I feel like CAD could really work. And, when it comes to the whole flashback thing, I think that makes sense. Like maybe instead of how we speculated before, maybe flashbacks relating to Kira or something, maybe the flashbacks are going to be back to that duel between him and Boba.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I like that idea a lot. I mean, it reminds me of Arrow, because especially seasons 1 and 2, we did a really good job at the flashbacks. Anytime Oliver was in a weird position, it just reminded him of something on the island or whatnot. And I think, especially like if Boba and Cad Bane in the present have to work together, then you can flash back to where like they're in different situations in the past, and that's where like the turn would happen and that type of thing. But I think I have to trust that this team that's done The Mandalorian thus far will have the best story prepared for like all these characters. I think Dave and John are very protective of this particular period of Star Wars because there's a lot of characters that we've seen in animation with the prequels. So yeah, I'm comfortable with what I've seen so far, and I'm comfortable with the team that's putting this together.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to the animation or the practical effects, it depends on how often Cad Bane is on screen, right? If he's in there for like one episode, they might be able to get away with just CGIing everything. But if he's in there for multiple episodes, it might not be that cost. The cost might be too high to just constantly do that. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's a great point. Here's the thing: all you have to do, I mean, we from how I know how not, I guess with show business or whatnot, fans, if you overexpose something, fans will be a little more critical and they'll find the flaws and things and whatnot. They can use this character in spurts. Use him where it really matters. Tell a significant story with him. Don't overexpose him where if you don't have the proper lighting or you see the flaws where this cannot work, just put him in a position where he'll be strong, in a sense of like how he looks, how he's positioned, how he interacts with the fan or with the other characters. So again, I think Lucasfilm is going to be smart about how they use this character because he is such a beloved character. You don't want to overexpose him to the point where like we see, man, they're not doing a good job with the storytelling or the way he looks. Just put him in positions where we know we'll build him up and make him strong.
Oh yeah, I'd be willing to bet with Cad. I feel like his main interactions with Boba, like say we get the duel, that'll be much more easier for them to shoot because you'll be able to do wide angle shots and things like that. But anything say in the present, I feel like there's a good chance that a lot of Cad's screen time will be when it's like nighttime out and things like that. Because when it's darker out, you can hide a lot of those flaws. Like look at even in Rogue One, for example. The Death Star room where Tarkin was in was not really well lit. Like it was almost like, I'm the evil villain in my lair type of situation. But it was the shot was done really well, and that was partially due because of it not being really, really well lit. If that whole room was lit up, we could be looking at a totally different outcome for how people perceive Tarkin.
Oh yeah, so it really comes down to like, you see Darth Vader in Rogue One, he's in a dark hallway. You never really see Darth Vader, period, when it's like sun out. They weren't gonna have it. No. They were thinking about throwing him on the beach in Scarif, but like, I don't know how that would have looked visually.
And here's the thing: the only two times I remember him seeing in light was in the New Hope, whenever he was on the Tainted V4 the ship.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the only time you see him in light during that one, and then on Hoth in the snow. And again, you can shoot snow differently, and a lot of that's probably artificial snow with those built-in caves that they had to put together. So, like they know how to protect that character and how they shoot those characters. So I think Ben makes a great point about Tarkin. Like the way they shot Tarkin was perfect, and I think they're probably continuously editing that as time goes on. So.
And well, another beloved thing in Star Wars is the video games. And well, we got a brand new video game gameplay trailer for Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. This came out of Opening Night Live, hosted by Jeff Keighley for Gamescom, which is a convention that happens in Germany. It isn't happening physically this year. This was all like a digital showcase. It's going to be going on that way for the next few days as it continues through. But we got a good, lengthy 2-minute trailer which really showcases a lot of the gameplay. So, we have all the errors are in here, whether it's the prequels, the original trilogy, or the sequel trilogy. They're all given their fair due, which is something I really enjoyed about having that trailer, is showing us the wide breadth of content of this game. And you see the world map, which is another thing we'll talk about entirely. But I just want to get your guys' thoughts and expectations based upon watching this trailer here. Did you get a chance to check it out there, Milton?
No, I did not see that. However, you know how I feel about like Lego and stuff. Like, look, I like the Lego toys growing up. Hell, I'll still play with them to this day if I could all the time. I'm just not a huge fan of the games per se. However, I will give them I'll give them a chance. If you and Ben tell me like, hey, Milton, these games are fire, you got to really play them, get into it, I'll definitely take the time to try to play them. Again, I'm not enthused about this particular game. I'm more of a fan of, I guess, be the Jedi Fallen Order type games, or the Rogue Squadrons, or hell, even the Force Unleashed, which I do have some information about that, hopefully. But like, again, I'm just into those type of games. The Lego games, I don't know. I just don't. They're not my cup of tea, I guess the best way to put it. However, like I said, if it's a good game, I'll give it an opportunity. And I know how much you guys love those games, and I'm sure once you play them and review them, I'm sure like you'll be satisfied. But again, it's not for me. However, that particular brand of Star Wars is built for kids, and that's what they should be doing. And I'm sure fans like us still play them, but personally, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, I'm going to throw it over to Ben on this one, because you're actually currently playing through a recent Star Wars video game, Jedi Fallen Order. So now that you're kind of wrapped in the Star Wars mythology in video game form, I know you're excited for this, right? Did this trailer make you more excited, or the same? Or okay?
I mean, it made me more excited, not specifically because of what was in the trailer, specifically knowing there is a game. Like, there is a game that exists. Like, it's great that we know it's finally coming.
Right.
It's awesome seeing it. It was disappointing that it's spring instead of the holiday season. It's like, when you first sent us that video in the group chat, Chris, I was like, oh man, please let this say holiday season, but it wasn't. Yeah. But I'm super excited for the game, mainly because the Lego games, I feel like almost as much as Battlefront or any other Star Wars game, it lets you get immersed into the game in a unique way, because you can play like the behind the scenes of certain things. Like, you get to play through like what Yoda was doing on Kashyyyk versus just a couple little shots of Yoda on Kashyyyk. Like, things like that. Like, you get really cool behind the scenes moments like those. And, just the gamer in me, and also the perfectionist, the games, you have to technically play through it twice, because if you go and play through the game just straight away, like in levels, there are certain things like bounty hunter doors or Sith Lord doors or Jedi doors where the only way you can open them are, you have to have a Sith or bounty hunter or whatever. So, to basically get the game back to 100% or to 100% completion, like, you have to play through it twice. So I like that kind of like challenge to it. Like, that's fun. And then again, it's just the whole immersive aspect of getting into the Star Wars universe, experiencing it, like all the nostalgic memories with it, because there were many times like, playing that over the summers when I was younger with my buddies. Like, that was always a lot of fun. I do have one critique of it, or one early critique. I mean, this is extremely early. It's actually a critique of all current Lego games, not just Star Wars. I cannot stand at all the fact they use the actual lines from the movies. Like, I love the old Lego games where the characters were just like mumble and be like, you know, like I that was so much more fun. And now they're, you know, they literally just in the trailer, like, you know, you have the direct like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor like conversation when he's dying type of thing. Like, and I'm like, you know, I love those actors and all, but I don't need to hear their voices. Like, part of the comedy for me in those games, it was just like the mumbling, like, you know, you figure it out, like, oh yeah, this is like this moment in Star Wars.
From my understanding, because I think I played the what's the most latest trilogy one that came out a couple years ago. Didn't they like they used the lines, but didn't they also use like joking lines in between some of that stuff?
Yeah, there are some.
Which I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, okay, that is kind of funny. Because like they do kind of take jabs at some of like the dialogue.
Yep.
But yeah, I do get your point on that, Ben. Continue.
Yeah, there were those, and then I think probably one of the most fun aspects of the first Star Wars Lego game was the fact that, you know, you're in Dexter's Diner, and I love it since it's a bar. Like, if you go outside the bar, and, you know, you go out into the parking lot where all the ships are parked, and, you know, you have just random Lego minifigures walking around like Darth Vader or whatever, or not Darth Vader, like clone troopers or droids or Count Dooku, like whoever you have unlocked. And if you just walk up and punch one of them, it's hilarious. Like, everybody, like Han or like the clone troopers, the droids, all the characters that are out there, they all draw their weapons, and like, you know, everyone starts fighting, and it's like a bar, you know, like a traditional a bar fight you'd imagine, and it's hilarious. Like, so that was one of the most fun parts about that game, was just walking up to somebody and you just punch them, and then like Han just whips his blaster out and everybody starts just opening fire. Like man. That, like, you know, a lot of good memories with those games. So I'm super excited for the new one. I'm gonna pre-order it as soon as we actually know 100% for sure, because like we could have pre-ordered it like last year or the year before, but you know, we would still be waiting. So I'm going to make sure the game is actually coming before that.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the whole delay and everything in a whole nother topic here. But I do want to pay attention to the chat. We have Alex Elkins. He's saying it looks like you'll be able to fast travel from planet to planet, which I love. So yeah, that's a really cool aspect of the game. They show, and I'm going to pull it up as I speak about it. In the trailer, there's a moment where they actually have Luke, and he's pulling up this galaxy map. And on the galaxy map, what I really like about it is he's pulling it up on another planet. Let's see, what planet is he on? He's on Dagobah. He pulls up the galaxy map. He goes to Tatooine, and there's like, I mean, it's a trailer, but like in a trailer there's 0 load times. Like, it goes like, he literally goes and travels through hyperspace to Tatooine, and his X-Wing lands, and it gets like on a dewback or a bantha and just starts riding around. Like, that is really cool. And I think that is the drawing point, Milton, to people maybe like yourselves. Like, hey, we might not ever get like that entire Star Wars saga game where you're playing like, you know, like a full 3D polygonal model, like, you know, a Jedi Fallen Order. Like, who knows if we'll ever get a game where we're actually playing, but at least we have the capabilities to play through a Lego version of that and have all the characters that we could play through at any time. So I think that's the biggest drawing factor by a long shot that most people want this game, is they can relive those memories from any of the movies at any given time. Like, you don't even have to go through like chronologically. You could just pick to go to like Camino in episode 2 and then fly over to Canto Bight in The Last Jedi and just skip everything in between if you wanted to. You could just, and I'm looking at the map here, and it's pretty massive. Like, they confirmed there's over 20 planets at launch.
Nice.
And like what I'm looking at, they have Coruscant, Crate, Bespin, Hoth, Endor, Kef Bir, Octo. They got Utapau, they got Dakar, they got Camino, they got Kajimi, they got Kantatica, they have like every planet in every movie, plus more. Like, this is crazy. And some of the planets are actually like question mark out, so that's not even everything. But, and I like how they lay out the map as a canon nerd like myself. Like, they have the different sectors. They really paid attention to detail. So it's like, oh, Tatooine is in the Arcanus sector. And then they have Utapau and Dagobah, which are in the Western Reaches or whatever. So I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. But I think that is what really kind of made me sit up in my chair a little bit because I'm watching this trailer and I'm like, that's where I wanted to know because we know this game is unlike other Lego games. This is more of like an open world game. So that's where this comes into play. It's like, okay, you could just go anywhere in your fighter at any given time. So that to me is really cool.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, go ahead, Ben.
Oh no, I was gonna just say real quick. The big part about it is I think it's nice because it gives us that open world game before the open world game comes out in like 2 or 3 years or whenever it is. Like, so it'll be a nice way to like really dive into things.
Yeah, and jumping off of that open world game, we also have Chad. He's chiming in. Do you guys think we might get a Book of Boba Fett or an inspired game? Because there's not really like the games like that right now. He wants to be like that old bounty hunter game, and we know that the one studio out there in Ubisoft's library of developers, whatever, they're actually working on an open world Star Wars game. We don't know what it is, but we expect it might be Mandalorian inspired. We have no idea why it could be, but I mean, you put 2 and 2 together, it's like, what's the hottest thing in Star Wars? You would think they would want to maybe bank on a bounty hunter story where you're going all over the galaxy. At least that's what I would hope. So I was hoping to hear something about that at E3 this year, but it looks like we'll have to probably wait till Celebration to get some concrete evidence on that. But yeah, that basically pay attention to that. And he also said before that, he's saying about the reason why a lot of people like these Lego games are good for the family. That he said a good family game for guys like me whose kids want to play, but the new content isn't really for them. So there
and
you
that's
go.
the thing, and he makes a good point because my niece is Ellie, my niece Ellie, who's a huge Star Wars fan. Like she loved the Lego games growing up, and again, those are perfect for her. Even though she watched the movies, she can then go and just because her favorite character is 3PO. So she can just go like, play with 3PO, whomever the character is, and just to her it's like playing with a toy in the video game. So that makes sense for people that have children to gravitate towards that game for sure.
And so as I'm kind of like clicking through different aspects of the trailer, I just want to kind of call out a few things. So I like the fact that they're actually giving like these levels are so big that they're giving us mounts to actually traverse the terrain. Like for instance, like there's like Rey with a jetpack on Jakku. There is Luke who's on top of like a what is it, a dewback or something. Then there's Han who's on top of a tauntaun. So like these environments are big enough to where they're actually making us travel that far of terrain because we need a mount. So that automatically gives me a lot of hope. Like, I mean, just looking at these things, there's a completely different camera angle. Like the other games, they would just kind of like give you a pre-established camera angle, whether it be from the front or from the side. Most of the time, it'd be like from the side angle. But this camera is like right close, like kind of like your normal like third-person shooter, like Red Dead Redemption or something like that. Like you're pretty close to the character's back, and it looks like you have full camera control of everything. So that excites me because it looks like they completely overhauled like the entire game engines that they used in the past. There's also a lot of vehicle combat in here. We see the Millennium Falcon, of course. You have to see that in a Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga trailer. But they also have the Jedi. They have the Jedi Starfighter and Attack of Clones. There'll be one in Asteroid Field. Now that is something I really can't wait to play through because that's one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. Period. So.
Oh yeah, that'll be a really fun mission. And then specifically from the sequels, even like I'm interested to play through some of the levels. Just to see how they play like versus obviously like the Rey versus Palpatine fight. That'll be interesting to see like if we get some Lego Force Ghost of like Luke and Mace Windu or Yoda, like those type of characters popping up. And there's always natural comedy in the game, so I'm sure there'll be something funny about that. Like you have different things. It'll be interesting to see the whole moment between Han and Kylo, like when he kills Han, like just to see, because the Lego games always are pretty like comedic with their deaths. So that'll be interesting. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see even Luke's death and the Last Jedi. Like, are they gonna have him fade away, or will he like his character just explode?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting just to see the way they do some of the things in those. But also, I'm just excited to see. We for sure, obviously, like you mentioned, the Attack of the Clones scene right there. There's going to be expansions or new takes on the episodes 1 through 6 levels, because I'm sure they're not going to be, just carbon copy and paste from the original games. So I can't wait to see how they adjust things, because even in the original games, like, when you would play through the pod race on episode 1, that was one of the most annoying things, because if you would bump into anything while you were doing it, it would like instantly kill you. So you'd have to restart the entire race. And so you had to play that over and over and over again. And for being a Lego game, it's like, come on now, this is a little tough. So, you have little things like that, that it's going to be interesting to see how their take is on that. And then, yeah, I just can't wait to see, also if we get a bonus mission, because on all the prior Lego games, we've had a bonus mission, like the original one. If you played through to 100% completion, it unlocked the beginning of A New Hope, where Vader comes into the Tantive 4. So, you could play through that. Like that was like an Easter egg. So my question that I'm wondering is, if we play through this game 100%, is it going to unlock like a Mandalorian level, or is it going to unlock a Rogue One level, or like, some type of a level from one of the other movies and or shows?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I mean, we already got evidence of Rogue One being in this game before, right?
Yeah.
So we know that they're going to have spin-offs in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, Rogue One will be in it. It just makes me wonder if like a bonus mission, especially for how popular Grogu is, with a bonus mission, are we going to be getting Mando? And like, I feel like there's a really, if I had to put a percentage on it right now, I would say at least 60%, 70% chance we're going to get the first episode of Mandalorian season 1 where you have to save Grogu. Like, I feel like there's a really good chance that could be a bonus mission at the end of the game.
Yeah, that'd be a really good guess for sure. I think that having Mandalorian stuff in there, not having anything to do with Mandalorian would be a huge misstep, especially if they're already doing like, what is this delay about? We're going to get into that in a moment here, about why maybe that is actually happening the way it is. And I have no prior knowledge or anything. I'm going to just be speculating off of that. But one final point, and I want to elaborate more on this before we move on. But The Force Awakens was the last Lego Star Wars game, and like I liked about that is they did have a lot of bonus missions. They had like 6 or 7 bonus missions that fleshed out things. Like, for instance, you were part of Han Solo's crew that went to get King Piranha's Rathars, and you get to find out like why he had a much bigger crew before. You get to see what Kylo Ren was doing right before Force Awakens. He was invading some planet, just like massacring all these people. So and you get to do one mission where it's like Lord Santeca, when he first gets down to Jakku and like is establishing his like village for like the Force of the Church. So there was a lot of really intriguing and they were technically like canon stories, I'm pretty sure, like that were actually fleshing out even the backstories of some of the characters. So I would love to see them like throw in some cool stuff like that too somewhere, like maybe with the prequels or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to, but we're gonna have to wait just a little bit longer, it was a really low blow to me, man. I seen that 2022 spring and I just like, are you kidding me? Like, I was mad about that for like a whole 24 hours, because if we tie this all the way back to when we first got this thing announced, I guess it was probably 2018 or 2019, but this game was ready to go in 2020. Like, this game was originally supposed to be out at the same time that basically Squadrons was out last year. So it's like, what's going on? Because then they pushed it to spring of 2021. And I was like, okay, maybe it'll still come out in this holiday. not even like winter. It's coming out in the spring. And what worries me about it is we got a lot of spring release dates for a lot of games. And
Mhm.
being that this already got delayed a few times, if they could have at least given us like, hey, March 22nd, 2022, I would feel a little bit more optimistic. But the fact that it's not even a month, like they could have just said March 2022. They just
Yep.
this huge blanket like spring. That could be anything as soon as March or basically like May. So potentially I could be going to Star Wars Celebration and still seeing stuff for Lego Star Wars Skywalker
Right.
Saga. It's like that kind of boggles my mind a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
I'll say it. Oh, I was gonna say I'll say it now. I'm gonna predict that game gets pushed to the holiday 2022
I was about to
because
say, yeah. Go ahead.
yep, I think with all the stuff going on, why would this is my question even. Why would they release it before Star Wars Celebration? You know,
Facts.
so I think it's getting pushed. But Milton,
No, I'm about to say that's the only thing I'm thinking of is Celebration because I'm looking at the dates now. It's Celebration as of now for 2022 is May 26th to the 29th. They're gonna Chris, I'm sorry to tell you this, but they're gonna delay it again. Probably push it for holiday release. That's where at Disney Celebration, Star Wars Celebration, you'll get like a hell of a trailer for it. You'll get the behind the scene footage. You'll get the meet the create, all that type of stuff. They're going to want to bring in this celebration and make it huge because we missed the last one, and they're going to want to bring everything to this. So my only explanation is Celebration for them to hold off on this. And let's be real here, families are going to pre-order this game the moment they say it's pre-ordered. They're going to have hell of a sales for this, and it's going to be a hot commodity for Christmas for kids and for fans.
Yeah. And what also bothered me about this is watching opening night live, like Jeff Keighley, the host of this. They would show a trailer. They would have like the devs, a dev or two from the game team, like on to talk to him, like explaining some gameplay features and whatnot. And it was just a trailer, and that was it. There was like no dev. We haven't really gotten like a developer diary or anything about the game. So that explains to me, like, are they really not confident in like showing us, like, or even talking about the game? Because we're not even sure, like, what, we're mining the heck out of these gameplay trailers, finding all the details, but there's never really any official explanation or anything. So that also kind of worries me. But here's the thing, though. If this game was supposed to come out, this year, you would think that in 2022, if Lucasfilm was playing their cards right, they would already have another game already lined up to launch in the holiday of 2022. So that's my only thing is I don't think they would release two big Star Wars games on top of each other. So there is really kind of like a do or die situation, I feel like, where it's like, all right, they have to release this game in spring because they can't have these two games releasing on top of each other. I fully expect that we're going to get a Jedi Fallen Order 2 in 2022 because it'll have been 3 years since the first game, and usually it's like a 3 to 4 year development window. If it's not that one, it's going to be maybe this open world game. I don't know how far along that is, but
right. No, I mean I can see that being what the plan could be, but like I said, it's so unpredictable, and again, with everything going on the last 2 years, everything's been kind of like shuffled. So
yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the substance of the delay. Maybe they are deciding to just plug this thing with so much more content, and maybe that'll be a really good thing. It's like, okay, all these bad feelings, but maybe we get the stories out after the game. We're like, oh, we wanted to hold back the release to put out like everything because we got games out there these days that are coming out. And, partly due because of COVID, obviously, you can't ever downplay that, where all these developers are basically working at home and they have to shift and transfer like gigs and gigs of files, which could take forever. So it's a lot more cumbersome working at home. But maybe they are going to just throw us a bone and be like, hey, we're throwing it all season 1 of Mandalorian. There you go. Happy for that.
That's what I'm really thinking that because, like I was saying, or like you even mentioned, Chris, we first started hearing about the potential like rumblings of this game late, 2018, 2019. The thing is, Mando came out in 2019. So did they have a Skywalker Saga game, episodes 1 through 9, like, almost in, they had a rough cut of it or an idea of where they wanted to go with it, and they were not expecting Mando to be as big as what it turned out to be. Then boom, Mando blows up end of 2019, and they're like, oh crap, now we have to basically develop a mini game inside of our game already, like adding in like another 8 levels or something.
And notice that they don't have any Mandalorian planets on there. Like if they're the question, they're probably all the question mark ones.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the bonus stuff will be Mando.
Yeah, I mean, like I agree. I can see that happen. It would kind of be irresponsible if they didn't do that, because Mando is hot right now. I guess my question for video games, maybe again, because I'm not a huge Lego guy when it comes to the games, and I know they're making this Skywalker Saga one. Will they ever make like a regular Skywalker Saga like game, like Force Unleashed or like Jedi Fallen Order type for the movies? Because I want to see that. Like, I want to be able to play all 9 movies in like a regular formatted game,
like Revenge of the Sith was.
Yeah, pretty much like that. I want to be able to play, New Hope or Phantom Menace into Rise of Skywalker, like Revenge of the Sith PlayStation 2, but clearly updated graphics, engines, that type of thing. Will we ever get that?
I think at this point, if they're ever going to do that, it would be after episode 12, if that's ever released, because I don't think they're going to do like redundant kind of like, oh, we're making a Lego version, but also the live action type of version. I think they're going to wait like way longer. And then by the time we'll have
no, I mean, like I said, I'm cool with what they're doing. Like it's working for them clearly, but it's like, man, I would love to be able to play like a Saga type game like that takes me, like months or a year on end to beat. Like, it's just like what's the game? I still have it. Not Enter the Matrix. It's the Matrix: The Path of Neo.
Oh yeah.
I still have that. I still have that game for PS2.
Oh, that game's great.
That game still holds up. Like it's. I need something like that. But again, like I said, for Star Wars with updated graphics, updated engine, that type of thing, you can add things to the story if you need to make it like more fleshed out. I'm hoping they give us something like that eventually for the basic Star Wars movies that we've gotten.
Yeah, seriously. We have our buddy Steven Schinder in the chat chime in. Imagine you finish the episode 9 levels, and afterwards you see an option to play levels titled Star Wars Episode 10. It's like,
that'd be fire.
But kind of recapping where we've been with the Star Wars video games. So I believe it was in 2014, if not definitely 2015, that we had EA handling the license for Star Wars. So right there in 2015, we got Battlefront, the reimagined Battlefront. Then in 2016 is when we got Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens. Then in 2017, we follow up with the follow-up to Battlefront 2. Then after that, we got Jedi Fallen Order in 2019. And finally, we got Star Wars Squadrons in 2020. So there you go. They're breaking the streak, guys. They are breaking the video game streak with whatever has been happening with Lego Star Wars. So for me, it's not going to be like the same, because I'm used to like hunkering down, playing a brand new Star Wars game, usually in November every year. And again, I got to kind of understand what's going on with the climate of the world and everything going there. So, I got to give them a little bit of slack, but still, it is darn disappointing. And I mean, it's not the end of obviously it's not the end of the world. We're just talking about video games here. But when it comes to other options that I have that aren't new video games, but we're getting updates to Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, the VR game, and we're getting an update, a massive update to the Old Republic, which is going to be a pretty big milestone for like the 10th anniversary of that game already. So it's not like I'm not going to have any new Star Wars video game experiences to play through, but it is, just something special about getting a brand new Star Wars game, period. It's going to be kind of that void won't be filled this year if you put it that way.
Yeah, well, maybe that'd be a motivation factor just to like buy old Star Wars games and play those. Like, go back if you still have a Super Nintendo, go get the Super Return of the Jedi, or which again I have that in my house. I have Super Nintendo, and I believe I still have Super Empire, which that game is still great, by the way.
Those games are hard.
Oh God, yeah,
They're hard. They're very difficult.
Oh yeah. There is like, and you die, and you have to start the whole game over again. Basically, there is no like level select unless you have like the
I know for
passcodes.
Empire, I know you can put the codes in because I've done
Oh,
that when I've beaten the game. Yeah, because you can like trust me, like, and listen, I beat that game multiple times, but the first like 10 times playing it, it's tough because you just don't know like how the game is like going to come at you.
mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Oh man. So we are going to transition into a new release on Disney Plus. We had the announcement a couple weeks or actually a couple months ago probably, and we got the full Disney Gallery The Mandalorian season 2 finale. So I know Milton, you've been chomping at the bit to talk about this to see what is happening with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and how the heck did they cover up the biggest spoiler possible that could have been that never was? So what
Yeah.
did you guys think?
Yeah, I was excited to watch this episode. I mean, you guys know me. I love the behind the scenes type documentaries for Star Wars. I just actually watched episode 2, Attack of the Clones, one of their documentaries, just the other day because I was just in that mood for it. But yeah, with this behind the scenes, like they knew like they were going to use Luke Skywalker the whole time. Like that's what's amazing. Since the beginning of this show, they knew like Luke would be their guy, and I love how they try to use Plo Koon to like
Yeah,
trick everyone, and how they really. I'm shocked they kept it a secret. That's
I
my
know.
thing, because like no one, 3 people can't keep a secret. Hell, 2 barely can. So like it's like that's crazy how they kept that secret from the world like that, and no one leaked it. Now I know people were making guesses and that type of thing, but no one still was sure it was going to be Luke because there was multiple guesses about who it could be that could come rescue them and whatnot. Even seeing the final scene, and Dave made a good point to bring this up. He's like, you see the X-wing, but you don't know it's him. You're still not sure if it's Luke. Then you see the black robe. Okay. You see the green saber and the glove. It could be him, but we're not sure yet. And then you take off the reveal. That's when you're like, oh, that is Luke. Just that build-up was amazing. The technology, guys, was an awesome thing to see. That with different formats, what they were trying to do was dope. I just love seeing how these creators were really invested, and you can tell that they cared, and they knew how significant this character was and is still to Star Wars fans. Even seeing Jon Favreau get emotional talking about, I don't know why I feel this way. I just feel this way. He didn't even explain it. He didn't have to. That's what makes it amazing. He's like, I just get this feeling. Whenever I saw that character and I saw R2 next to Luke, it just brought me back. And it's like, I remember watching that scene. I was actually sitting in my bathroom
Yeah.
on my toilet watching on my phone, and I'm like losing my mind because I'm like, that's Luke Skywalker. That's my guy. And how excited we were talking about that episode when we did our review of it, and it was like, my God, like,
Hold on a
and
second.
yeah, it's like even talking about it now, it's like I'm getting the goosebumps now. You probably can't even see it that well, but like I'm getting them now because I'm talking about it because that character is so important to fans.
I gotta
know,
highlight
Chris,
the fact.
are you thinking the same thing I am?
I gotta
Chris?
highlight the fact that what were you were sitting on the toilet watching this
Oh yeah,
episode for
I
the
was sitting on
first
the
time.
toilet like literally. I got up because I woke up early that day, and I know. Listen, you guys are laughing. That's okay. I woke up early that day, and I watched that episode, and I was like, man, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm bringing my phone with me, and I just, I mean, literally, I watched it while I was sitting. I didn't get up for like the last 20 minutes. I sat there and like in my bathroom and watched it
Oh my
because
gosh.
that's how excited I was when I started to see like, okay, this could be him, and but that's the thing though. That's how authentic I was in that moment. I didn't care, and it was like, man, dude, like Star Wars. And people don't understand how Star Wars brings people together, how it makes you feel. And I wish more people had the opportunity to watch Star Wars for the first time again. Like I would love to have that feeling again, to watch that opening shot of New Hope, or watch Luke and Han on Hoth for the first time, and just, man, like how great was this? And even I would love to see that Luke scene again for the first time ever, because how it made me feel. And it's like, my God, like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and even Peyton Reed, they get it. They get it. And this is where my only negative is going to be. Kathleen Kennedy, J.J. Abrams, Ryan Johnson. Why'd you overthink it? You were trying to do something that you didn't need to do with this character. This is what we wanted. Or hell, give us even an older version of how he was in that 10-minute scene that we had with him. And I'm sure people who are listening to me and who are watching this may say, hey, he's being a little negative right now. That's not my intention. My intention is to say, like, we love this character. We want this character protected. We want him challenged as a character. We want new things with this character. But don't forget who this character is. Don't forget the fundamentals of this character. Because, again, as you see in the sequel trilogy, a lot of people were up and down about Luke. And that should tell you something. And so I'm hoping that Lucasfilm will now see, hey, we still can go back and tell some of these Luke stories post Return of the Jedi. Maybe this will help bridge the gap between some of the divisiveness in Star Wars today that still goes on. But overall, I love this episode. I love the behind the scenes. I hope we get more of it fleshed out with just the whole overall season 2 in general. But yeah, my God, Dave and John, they get it. They get Luke and they get Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited for what they're going to do in the future.
Well said, well said. So Chad is chiming in, and Mark Hamill manages to say basically everything on his brain all the time. He's always talking on Twitter, and somehow he keeps this all secret, which is just the biggest reveal. It's like, how the heck did he keep his mouth shut about this?
Right. But you know what though? But that tells you something right there too, because you're right. Mark usually says, "I don't care. I'm gonna say whatever I want," but I think Mark knew how significant this was, and Mark has always been the one saying like Luke Skywalker, this isn't my Luke Skywalker. In his own way, he was saying about that with the sequels. I think once he put that robe on, he read the script, put the robe on. I think he's like, man, like this is it. This is what the fans really were wanting. He pretty much said it, so yeah.
Let's talk about the process and how in depth they actually went with describing all the methods. I really enjoyed it. I thought they would just like kind of gloss over it, but they spent a really large amount of time just talking about how deep fake works for like the common guy, because I really don't even know how that works, to be honest with you. How they synthesize the voice, how they took all these old footage of Mark Hamill in these interviews with like the proper lighting, and they kind of melded like 3 different methods together. What did you gather from all that, Ben?
I thought that was one of the most interesting parts of the entire episode. Other than, of course, the entire thing was amazing. It was great. I echo pretty much everything Milton said. And, my big takeaway really from the entire thing was just like, Star Wars really is being aware of the fans and like what the fans are looking for. So like, that's a big hats off to them. And, that leads into this whole deepfake thing. Like, you literally heard, John or Dave and then the other guy that was on there and then the woman that was on there, like they all pretty much, like one of them literally said, we want to do Luke, but we got to figure out how to do him. We can't do this, we can't do that. Like, they were wanting it to be right for the fans pretty much, because they made a point to say pretty much the last time we saw him, he looked like Return of the Jedi Luke. And that's what fans are expecting to see, is that version of Luke. So, for how much effort they did, like they said, they were Googling and looking up videos and looking up old interviews of Mark and everything. And then, you feed it into this AI and it, basically spits out this Luke, which is crazy. I mean, it's crazy good. But it also, as Jon Favreau talked about, that is a scary thing that we're getting into times like this. That is, like, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it is a little, like, not to sound negative, but it is a little worry of me, because what if we get into times like where, do we really know, like, potentially, like, say, not to bring the news into this, but like, what if like there's a significant political figure in the news or something, and they just you somehow use a deep fake and we don't even know it, like something. I know that sounds like conspiracy or whatever, but we're getting to a time where, like if someone gets a hold of the technology, like Jon Favreau said, like, the technology is not like good or bad, but it's a tool. Like anybody can use a tool for good or bad. So like that's my only like little thing when it comes to deepfake is I think we could spiral down a shaky path, but in terms of like Star Wars, I think the sky's the limit because and I think they were foreshadowing this in this documentary because you know, you heard John mention like basically saying the technology is going to get better and better. And, you know, so I feel like a lot of the things that were in this were basically just like implications like, hey guys, we're going to be getting more of Luke. Like, don't worry about that. Right. Like, I really feel like that was one of the big things that came out of it when they were covering the technology and like how much work they had to put into it. Because also, my thing is, why would they potentially try to perfect this technology if they're going to just use it for a one-off thing? Like, you know, I'm sure the entire Luke project was very, very expensive for them to do. So, I mean, heck, now they hired a new employee, that YouTuber, to do stuff like that. So, you know, you have a whole new person on your staff. So, like, that's another expense. So I feel like, you know, a lot of the implications from like this technology that we saw, like, are just leading to us seeing more Luke, potentially more characters, maybe Cad Bane. They're going to somehow do deep fake Cad Bane, like maybe, I don't even know, like make a prop of Cad Bane and then somehow deep fake it or not, like, you know, maybe something like that. And we get some Cad Bane deep fake. Like, you know, you could have all kinds of things in regards to the deepfake technology. But I think the craziest and the coolest part about it was like the fact that that wasn't even like Mark talking. It was synthesized audio. Like when they said that, I was like, whoa, like I heard some rumblings about that from like other YouTubers and things, like people saying, oh, no, that wasn't Mark talking. Like, and I heard other people say, oh no, you know, that had to have been Mark Hamill. And it's like, and then we see this, and it's like, no, they literally just took all these old audio clips, basically, of Mark Hamill from the movies, from interviews. You know, as I mentioned in our group chat, Milton, the radio dramas, they got a shout out. Like, so you have those type of things, like that. You know, you can just spit out a line of audio of Mark Hamill, which is wild, and you know that makes me think, like, look, like they could take that technology and, you know, we can make like a deep fake of us, like feed it all of our podcasts, and, you know, we would be able to get off, you know, we can make a deep fake podcast or something, you know, like if we had we had the computers, like, you know, synthesize the audio, like it's wild. But I think it just leaves limitless possibilities for like the Mandoverse and to Star Wars in general, because, you know, it opens up a line to me where, okay, like say for Star Wars specifically, what if Harrison Ford just signs his total likeness off for them basically to do whatever, like, you know, as long as he gets like some type of a pay cut from every time they use it, of course. Like, what if he does that and they eventually do perfect this technology, and we get to a point, you know, John even alluded to it in that thing, we're going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to tell if that's a deep fake or a real person. Mm-hmm. And if we get to that point, you know, whatever company breaks through with that, whether it's Lucasfilm or or ILM or another company, whoever gets to that first, like this is like the race to the moon almost. Whoever gets to that first is going to be probably the most rich entertainment company, or, you know, for over the long haul. Because think about it this way, if they perfect it for Star Wars specifically, you could literally just scan all the actors right now just to be safe. Like, so take Daisy Ridley, for example. They could bring her in, they could do a bunch of body scans of her, so they have all of her facial dimensions, everything, when she's right now in her 20s. And then, you know, 50 years down the road from now, if they would want to bring Rey into something, they would, boom, be able to bring her right into it as herself in her 20s and be able to do that. Or like with Luke, we could have all kinds of Luke stories. Like if they totally nail this, we could have so many different Luke stories potentially. And again, like I think with them hiring that YouTuber, it's just the beginning because we have him on the board and they're perfecting the technology. So we're getting, I think it's just all signs pointing to Luke being more involved in the Mandoverse.
Yeah, so they're giving, well said again for you, Van. Really, really good points. They're showing us so much of this to kind of give us an idea of how it works because we're going to see a lot more of it. It's plain and simple. It's like, all right, here's how here's how it works. Get used to it because you're going to be seeing a lot more characters. So if your mind's getting blown, you're seeing characters that are way older. You can go back and watch this, and you already have an idea of how it actually works. But yeah, Steven Schinder in the chat is saying this scares me, LOL, and I'm saying the same thing as him because the way that you guys are explaining that it's like almost like a dark future where it's like, oh man, like the ramifications of this is like the power and the responsibility.
Yeah, that like I was telling my brother, I said, I think of, another movie, Spider-Man, with great power becomes great responsibility, and John made a good point to bring that up in his own way. And it's like, he knows it's a tool and he's going to be, and I know I can trust he'll be responsible with it. But how many random people out there will be responsible with that type of power? We know as human beings we're idiots. We know that we can't help ourselves when we get some shiny new toy. So that's where I think we have to be cautious with it. And like I said, Steven brings up a great point. It's very scary to have it. At the same time, it's great to see that the technology is there and developing and getting better. It's just who is willing to be the first person to say, hey, we got to be responsible with this. We have to be careful when we use this, and especially in film, or with politics or whatever,
I think it was actually a couple years ago, in New York. Well, on a side note, when it comes to deepfake, you can literally look it up. Deepfake, there's open access, like free software deepfake. You can go and download it right now if you want. But I think it was a couple years ago. It might have been New York or New Jersey. But they had a case going on in courts over, I'm pretty sure deepfake wasn't allowed there, or they were trying to make it not allowed because someone tried to file like a court case against an adult website because someone was putting an actor's face on another person's body, and so that type of stuff. It's just that was a few years ago when the technology wasn't very great. Like, now that it's increasing and getting better, like you said, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, people have to be responsible with it, which, we're humans. So, of course, people aren't going to. But my thing that I'm excited about as well, other implications for this on a positive note, think about it this way for fans. Star Wars fans, if we somehow get the deepfake technology, like the process of how you do it, like if there's let's say a book on how to deepfake, like Star Wars fans will be able to make their own movies, like their own fan films, like their own characters or whatever. Mm-hmm. So like just the potential creative aspects for fans out there now, like I find that really, really exciting and encouraging because now, if a fan potentially wouldn't have to do a bunch of casting, like they could make their own Star Wars movie. Like I think there's just limitless possibilities when it comes to this in terms of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and no matter how this gets perfected, I think there's still going to be some of us are still skeptical about, hey, I know that character can't be that young because in reality the actor is this old, and we'll be looking for those little kind of tells of, oh, that just doesn't seem right to me, no matter how this thing gets perfected. But the way Dave Filoni described it, he I like how he kind of acknowledged like some of those viewers, and he's like, look, like if you buy into the whole moment, like you're buying into that X-Wing showing up, you're buying into the glove, the saber, the hood, like at least for me, I didn't really think at all for those few seconds when I first seen him, like, oh, this can't be happening. I was balled in on that moment, and I was kind of like lost there and immersed in the story, and it totally worked for me. And I kind of, I wish for everybody that they were able to kind of have that experience that I had, and I know not everybody did, but that's what it comes down to, is just kind of letting it all flow over you, and the way that Star Wars at its highest points is able to kind of just wash over you, and you just kind of just get lost in the story. That is without a doubt like one of those moments for me, and it worked.
Yeah, I agree, and that goes back to great storytelling. I mean, it's a great. You're right. If they tell a great story and they capture you in the moment, you're going to be caught up in the moment, unless you're just one of those people that don't have a soul, and don't want to enjoy yourself. Like again, I know Mark Hamill isn't 25 anymore. I know Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing was Tarkin, correct? Or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Peter was Tarkin. Yeah, I know he isn't alive anymore, but I was convinced that Tarkin was there in Rogue One, and it looked pretty damn good. So as long as they tell a strong story and it's meant for the character to be there, I'm fine with it. I thought an interesting point that he brought up, mainly Dave Filoni, and he brought up Ahsoka a couple times. Yep. And he said it could have been easy for us to make Luke like overpowered and over the top. He's like, but however, Luke has been training with a saber, but who's been teaching him? One. Two, he says people forget that Ahsoka is his senior and a better fighter, and that makes such sense.
Yeah.
For like how Mandalorian, that story was written, because she was. I mean, people forget she was taught by Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like those guys are the best. Luke has just been doing it through holocrons and whatnot. So even seeing how his movement was and how they compared that to Ahsoka and how she fought, like it was cool. They acknowledged that, saying, "Hey, this is how authentic we have to be." It's easy to make Luke, Star Killer from Force Unleashed. that wouldn't have made sense. He's powerful in the Force without question, but as a fighter, his skill is continuously improving. He's not at Ahsoka's saber technique yet, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
so I thought that was a very key thing that they pointed out.
Yeah, well, I think that was next to the voice thing. That moment when Dave was talking about Luke training was the moment that my ears really perked up, because I was like, oh, I think that means we're going to be getting something on screen at one point or another with. I really think, because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't sound like he was implying Ahsoka trained Luke. To me, it sounded like he was saying somebody else did. And I feel like there's a chance. He's already under contract. What if we have Ghost Hayden Christensen talking to Luke at some point or another? Because Luke did use some of Anakin's moves in that fight with the Dark Troopers.
He looked like he did. Anakin's very much like
his back.
Yeah, Anakin's very like heavy type slasher, but he's very graceful and skilled too. And I was seeing Luke, I'm like, man, that looked just like Anakin, like back in the just flashes of it. And it's like maybe again, Ghost Yoda, Ghost Obi-Wan, Ghost Anakin, the holocron training, even like what's the one animated show? Rebels, I think. Whenever what's his name? The kid.
Ezra.
My God. Ezra, yeah, Ezra. When he was talking to Ahsoka about, hey, I watch these holocrons all the time. And she's like, yeah, Anakin was the best, and he's watching him teach like the 4 and 5 or something. That's probably what Luke's been doing.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Either that or, he had a relationship with Mara Jade at some point in his 5 years.
I mean, they can bring her in, and she was a badass. So, like.
There's nothing saying in Last Jedi that he said I had a wife and all this stuff. That's all very murky territory.
In novelization, right? They kind of allude to that in the novelization to Last Jedi.
Well, that's more of like a alternate reality where he was with like the one lady on Tatooine or whatever her name was. Yeah.
Cammy.
So I mean, to me, I just thought that the way they took care of the character and how they explained it in their process, it just made sense to me. And it's like, man, like there's so many possibilities now. And again, I'm hoping that it's either we get more Luke, whether it's in his standalone stuff or more in Mando series, or we get a meetup between Ahsoka and Luke someday.
I had kind of like an alternate Star Wars reality brainstorm when I was watching this documentary, because they literally had Mark Hamill in costume in a Jedi robe. And I was like, this could be what Luke Skywalker looks like as like a grand instructor a grand master, if you will, of a Jedi Academy. Like if things didn't go the way they did with the Secrets of the Sequel trilogy, let's say he was still alive. Like that's what we're looking at a Jedi Master Luke right there. Like he's there in a robe. I could just see him surrounded by like students in a temple in Yavin or something.
Big facts.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, like, and again, I think that's why Mark actually kept his mouth shut because he got caught up in what the story was. I mean, he even says he's like I had to see the child. Like he says it, he's like I needed to see the child, and when you see him hold Grogu, and like when he's at his house, like you
Yeah.
can tell like he was feeling like the importance and feeling his character again. He's like, this is what Luke would be like, again, it just made sense for the story. It made sense for the character. I think Mark understood the significance of it, so he kept his mouth shut. And he even said, he's like, listen, I'm good at keeping secrets. Y'all just forget that. I kept a secret for Empire for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
So people forget that. Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Man.
No, I think I just I loved this whole documentary. I really did. And as I mentioned earlier on, I really think the big sure, of course, all of this Luke stuff is amazing. All this deep fake stuff is amazing, etc. But I really think one of the biggest takeaways is the whole fact they seem to actually be listening to fans. Like they're finally that was one of the first things Favreau mentioned in the first 3 minutes of the thing. He was talking about the importance of the fans, making, bringing such significance to the fans, etc. Blah 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 blah. I thought that was great. And then even the part, no matter who it is from Lucasfilm over the years, we've heard people basically say they're just doing what they want. They don't listen to feedback, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I love that they were watching YouTube reactions to the Luke scene. So, so that to me right there shows, oh, wait, you're not as hardcore as what you try to, try to put on oh, we don't listen to the fans. We do what we want.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, all of these people are still humans. And the fact, I guarantee you, some of them, many of them probably, especially younger people, sure, Favreau and Filoni, they looked at the videos. I guarantee you, anybody that was in their 20s or 30s on this production, right after this aired, they went to YouTube and typed in Mandalorian Season 2 finale reaction. Soon as they all got home in bed that night, they all said, let's go to YouTube and let's look at all the reactions, because that's what they were doing. And I love it that they finally pulled the curtain back and were like, yeah, we were looking at reaction videos, people.
Yeah. Because even Mark even said, he's like, I was surprised to see that grown men were crying about this. And I'm like, you're damn right. And then look, I wasn't one of them, but and probably in the back of my head, I probably was crying in my own little 10-year-old body, because again, it's that's Luke, man. That's the guy.
Yep.
We want him to be wrecking people, but also be that Luke that brings hope,
Yep.
And you're right, Ben, you make a great point. They see the fans. They listen to them. And again, let's also say this while we're at it. As fans, we can be greedy and selfish. We don't know what's best for us all the time. Facts. Yeah. However, after seeing the reaction from Mandalorian of the past 2 seasons, we know this is what we want as Star Wars fans. They know this works for us, this particular period. Even if there's parts of the sequel trilogy that works for fans, and hopefully, and I'm gonna call out old girl on this, Kathleen Kennedy. Hopefully she's seeing some of this stuff and saying, you know what, maybe she don't have to say it out publicly, that's fine, but maybe she's saying internally, look, we need to now be more take more of an acknowledgement of how we're gonna please our fan base. Clearly with expanding the brand of Star Wars, but let's not forget them as well. They're the ones that drive this franchise. They are the lifeblood and the heartbeat of this franchise.
Yeah, I want to mention, and they had a YouTube clip of this before the actual documentary went up live, and it was all about Filoni, and he mentions Star Wars Celebration, he mentions Star Wars bringing this uplifting feeling, and, there's a lot of darkness in Star Wars, and he mentioned specific things, like Empire, happening, and it's the darkest Star Wars movie, Revenge of the Sith happening, and then we have the hopeful ending with Obi-Wan on Tatooine, the twin sons with Luke, and all these moments. And that's what happens at the end of this episode. We do get that whole uplifting feeling with Grogu. It's sad to see him go, but we know he's in capable hands. And I just like to see that the creators there, are still honing in on what George Lucas delivered time and time again. It's like, this is a story that gives people hope.
Oh, for sure. It really does. It gives them hope and brings people together. Star Wars creates so many great memories for people. Like with this episode specifically, me and my good friend Alex, he's always in the chat on here. And he was over that night and we binge watched all of Mando, basically rewatched all the prior episodes, to kind of lead up to this one. We figured it up. We were like, okay, if we start like however many hours, a few hours beforehand, it'll lead up perfectly. So we did that. And, I'll never forget, like, soon as we got to the end point, like, I was sitting over on the recliner. He was over on the couch. We were just sitting there eating pizza and whatever and watching the episode. And, soon as they say, like, oh, there's an X-Wing approaching, me and him both jumped up from the couch and chair, and we were standing, like, 3 feet from the TV, and we were like, wait a second, what's going to happen here? And we were like freaking out. This is like 4 o'clock in the morning. And like, I'll never forget that type of like, moment, because those are like iconic, big Star Wars moments that, will last a lifetime, really.
Facts. I mean, and it's like, I remember actually talking to my dad, I think that week. I was like, Dad, did you watch this yet? He wasn't really into The Mandalorian. I'm like, you got to watch this. Like, just watch this.
Ooh.
And it's like, I'm like, just watch this particular episode.
Okay.
And even actually, like, because I work for a local government in one of our surrounding counties. And there's like a client that I work with who loves Star Wars. He's a professor, actually. And I was like, hey, Jim, did you cast The Mandalorian yet? And this is a professor. And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, don't tell me how it ends. He's like, I'm going to watch it. Like, he was a fan like me. And he's like 10 years older than me. And it's like, yeah, I'll get to it. Trust me. And in the moment he watched it, the next week I was like, what'd you think? He's like, oh, man, I loved it. He's like, Luke was bad. I mean, just sharing those moments with different people that are from different generations. My dad's 25 years older than me. This guy was 10 years older than me. Just having those moments and being a child with them and just enjoying that property and sharing those moments. It's like, that's what Star Wars does, even with all the doom and gloom in it as well, because that reflects real life. So it makes sense, but also giving that hope with these characters is like, man, fire.
Oh yeah. Well, Milton, like you said, with that guy, like I have one of my dad's good friends. He's a huge Star Wars fan. He's the one that I said has the life-size Han and Carbonite. Anyways, like he texted me that day, and he texted me in bold letters, now that's Luke. And I thought, yep.
Oh man.
Yep. You wrapped up pretty much all of our feelings in one short text.
Yeah.
And like, just seeing different reactions, he's in his like upper 50s and married and has kids and all that stuff. Like, all these different cross generations. And then, that night he was watching the episode with his daughters who are like, in their, 10, 11, 12 range. And, they all loved it, and they're kids. Like, so, just seeing different things like that, it's so awesome. And then, as I mentioned so many times before, my grandma, she's a Star Wars fan. She watches all this stuff. And, I even get a call from her freaking out how amazing that was. And she couldn't believe that Luke showed up and blah, blah, blah. Like, she didn't expect that to happen just because pretty much what happened with him in the sequels. But like just seeing all these different people react so positively to it, like that moment. And I can akin, like, after Mando season 2 finale, the Star Wars fandom was almost back to where it was pre-Force Awakens, in my opinion. Like, we were, like, everybody was positive and rolling, and, then there was certain dramas and things that happened that basically tore that all apart, 8 weeks into it. But like the Star Wars fandom right there, they have shown they can get together and be positive. And like just moments like that, like that's the thing I think that Star Wars is working on and becoming more self-aware about, is they're being aware on things that make everybody happy. Like whether you're, you love the sequels or hate the sequels or love this or hate that or this or that or the other thing. Like they're now being more aware where they're like, hey, let's, instead of like going to one extreme or the other extreme, let's just find kind of a happy middle ground that's going to please everybody. And I think that's what they nailed with the finale of Mando season 2.
Heck yeah. And you know, we've been talking about this for a while. I'm just happy that we got this documentary, because after watching, you know, the actual initial one that came out like the week after the series ended, or the season ended, it was blatantly obvious, like, where the heck is the Luke stuff in this? I want to learn how they brought him back to life, the ramifications, implications, and all this. And I think it paid off. I mean, it was 8 months later or whatever it's been, but it's nice that this thing was like a fully fledged 40-minute documentary based off of like one scene only. So they took their time with it. They gave us a lot more details than I expected them to, and just gave us so much with Mark. And I think just seeing him at the house, seeing him doing like so many interviews, I think just the whole process of this whole scene, what, you know, behind the scenes footage, as well as like people talking in front of the camera, I thought it was really well done overall as a documentary. So I'm just happy that this thing exists, and hopefully I keep continuing these, because it's really fascinating to me as somebody who really likes this behind the scenes content, and when it comes to especially the cutting edge technology, because 10 years from now we're going to look back at this video and be like, hey, remember when they were just pioneering this technology, and look where we are now.
Yep,
for sure.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I hope we get more of this, like as you said. I would love to see more of this type of stuff, especially for like Book of Boba Fett coming out, because, you know, the people on that show, they're all obviously John and Dave, but Robert Rodriguez, him and Tamara Morrison are so good on camera. Like, you know, they're so charming. Like, I think that'll be really cool. Like, I just hope we continue to keep getting behind the scenes content for all of these things, really, because, you know, what's putting together an hour-long documentary? Like, obviously, like, you know, we're not the ones making it, but you know, fans like to see a peek behind the curtain when it comes to the things they love. And I feel like Star Wars, I feel like transparency is the big thing. You know, us as fans of Star Wars, or even as sports, like, you know, in the sports world, one of the biggest things that fans like from their teams they follow is transparency. They don't like, I mean, unless you're like the Patriots and you're winning everything, but you know, in general, fans like their coaches and the players on their teams to be transparent and be like, hey, this is what's going on. This is the process. This is how we did it. And I really think Star Wars fans will really appreciate more of these type of things, because in my opinion, like, you guys may have different opinions on this, but I feel like Star Wars is always really guarded on everything. Like, they're always so secretive, and, you know, they don't want to tell us anything, et cetera, et cetera. They're so caged and guarded. To me, like, doing more of these documentaries really would help build more of a fan relationship, direct fan relationship with the fans, not through the content, but through the people working on the content, like Dave and John, and even Kathleen Kennedy. Like, you know, I have major critiques of her, but hats off to her for even greenlighting this show. Like, you know, she could have said no to this from the beginning. So, like, you know, hats off to her for thinking it was a good enough idea to pass, to be a good show. Like, so, you know, just to get more of a fan relationship, I feel like putting more of these faces to the projects that are getting worked on would really, really help Star Wars' relationship with their fans, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you have any last words on this, Milton, before we get on to a viewer question here?
No, I think Ben was well said, man. I really have nothing else to add. Again, loved it.
Well, so. One quick question for both of you, though. With all of that being said, I will have to give this a 9.5 out of 10. What do you guys rate it?
It's a 10 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I got to give it a 9.5.
I wish it was longer, but that's being greedy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's that 0.5 where that comes in. I mean, to me, 45 minutes, whatever it was, 10 out of 10. I just loved behind the scenes stuff, and I was satisfied. I couldn't complain.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we do have a viewer question for somebody that chimed in live. We have my buddy Chad. He's sending us in a question, and a reminder to everybody listening and watching later on YouTube. You guys could always send in your questions to us either on Twitter. You can hashtag Outer Rim Transmission, or you can send us an email over at outerrimtransmission@gmail.com. We'll be happy to eventually add or answer your questions on an upcoming live show. So we are getting into the origins of what got us into Star Wars, and he's saying, is there any specific scene or thrill moment that made you guys gurus of Star Wars? So I will start this off with Jabba's palace. I think that whole sequence, well, first off, I remember like the actual Jabba's throne room and all those multiple scenes being really cool, but I think that really heroic moment for Luke, that swashbuckling moment where he's on the edge of the skiff there, and he jumps down, the music swells, and he gets the lightsaber, he's kicking butt. I that is just peak Star Wars for me, and I got to give it to that moment there.
Oh, I think the scene for me that got me really invested. I mean, New Hope was. I liked New Hope when I was a kid. I just thought it was slow at first when I first started watching. As an adult, I appreciate that film very much, and I enjoy watching it now. For me, it was Hoth. The whole like setup of Hoth was like amazing, because like I've never saw like a snow planet before, and I'm like, dude, that'd be so dope to like actually like not live on Hoth, but like just vacation there for like 2 days and just be Luke Skywalker, you know, dealing with like Wampas and stuff. So to me, like all the Hoth stuff holds up for me till this day. Every time I watch Empire, that's my favorite scene, is watching all the Hoth drama.
Heck yeah. I mean, everything with that battle, the way it was produced with the stop motion animation with the walkers, and the fact that, you know, you see the behind the scenes stuff, and they're literally in Norway somewhere, and it's like in the middle of one of the worst blizzards ever. It's like, holy crap, they did whatever it took to get that done.
That scene made me want to like look into more like behind the scenes of like Star Wars. Like I'm like, was it actually real? Where they shoot that? And when you get to do the studying of it, you're like, oh my god, like they went to like an actual like place where they were snowed in. They had to shoot it there. You know, it was just amazing.
Yeah, and a special edition version of that always gave me the creeps with the Wampa in the cave, just eating a chicken bone or whatever it was, just the blood just dripping down his face. That gives me nightmares.
Oh yeah, like with Hoth, I mean that was always a fun thing, you know, as a kid with Hoth, like, because I always, anytime we had a snow day or like a big blizzard here in Northwest Ohio, I always said, man, it looks like Hoth out there. Like, that was literally the first thing I always said, you know, being in these parts, you know, we're getting like 12 inches of snow at once or something, like a big blast of, you know, a blizzard. So, like, you know, things like that really like bring memories back when it comes to Hoth. And then, like, for me specifically, though, I would have to say probably the moment that really hooked me onto Star Wars, I mean, as early on in the movies as it was the opening to A New Hope. Like, soon as like the shot of Darth Vader when he walks through the door, like that's the part that hooked me. Like, whoa, what is this? What is this guy, or who is this guy? Like, what's going on here? And then, you know, we move on to him like picking up Antilles and snapping his neck and, you know, throwing him aside. Like that type of stuff, you know, as a kid, like is really like, whoa, like this is crazy. And then, you know, that movie just progressed and got better and better, and that really hooked me. And, you know, all of these iconic moments that really are moments though that stand out in mine, and, you know, of course, obviously both your childhoods and everything. Like even you know, as you mentioned, Chris, your moment with Return of the Jedi and on the Dune Sea thing with Luke on the sail barge and all that, or on the skiff and all that. Well, like that was one moment, you know, as a kid, or heck, even as in high school, and, you know, even every now and then, me and my cousins when we're messing around, when we're at one of our relatives' houses who has a diving board, we're always like, okay, let's give this a go. We're going to be able to pull ourselves up one of these times. And just do the jump and spin around and grab the diving board. Like, that was the thing as a kid, doing that type of stuff. Like, all of those moments are moments that like really hook and pull you into Star Wars and like, keep you there. Or even the prequels. Like, I'll ask both you guys that. Like, for me, I would say in terms of like prequel moments that really hooked me, was the whole like the appeal of Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace. Like, the first time I saw him in the marketing and things, like, it was like, whoa, what is that? Like, that is like a devil looking guy. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So, that was probably the moment that really hooked me into the prequels. Even like, what were moments that like hooked you guys for the prequel trilogy?
Yeah, I would have to second you on Darth Maul. I mean, it was to the point where I was so obsessed with Maul that my father at the time had a screen printer in the basement, so he was just doing that on the side for making t-shirts and stuff. So I actually had him make me a custom Darth Maul t-shirt.
Nice.
Where he had like the
awesome.
whole like the silk screen. So he had like the whole screen just like made for like the red like tattoos on a black t-shirt. So that was really cool because I had my own custom. Back then you couldn't just go online and just buy a t-shirt anywhere. The internet didn't even really exist. So it's just like, all right, where are we gonna get the stencil design? And, I had to go on like the Windows 95 computer to like do a thing up in Corel Draw and do all that. And then that following Halloween, I remember I actually was Darth Maul. And I just remember like how hot that like rubber mask was, like walking around on Halloween. It was like really hot that year too. So I was like, holy crap, like I had to like constantly like take the mask off because I was just like sweating so much. But funny. yeah, Darth Maul, and then of course watching the duel between all them when I actually went to see the movie was like the big thing for me.
I think for me, I've always been just fascinated by the look of Star Wars in general. It's seeing Coruscant, because we heard about this planet in the books, or I guess back in Legends sometimes it was known as Hadabadan or Hadabadan.
Whoa, really?
Remember, like, yeah, like it was different before. It was called Coruscant or Coruscant in some of the books back in the day. But no, seeing Coruscant, how it was a city planet, and again, this is 1999, and I'm like how they make it look so real. Like, I want to live there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even like, honestly, I was a kid wishing like, oh God, I wish like you could make Star Wars real. Like, give me Hoth, give me Coruscant. Like, I'd want to live on these planets. So I think for me it was seeing Coruscant and clearly the duel. Like, the lightsaber duels were fire. Like, the double bladed lightsaber, no one expected that.
Seriously.
When that popped out.
Well,
and I was like, yeah, I want one.
Well, Milton, in that scene with Darth Maul, I always remember that as a kid. Like, I thought to myself, like, when Qui-Gon is meditating, like Darth Maul's like pacing and all that stuff, and then when Darth Maul is like taunting Obi-Wan, like, it just reminded me of like a wrestler like taunting, like, being cocky, like when he's about ready to like take someone out in the ring. Like, it awesome. As a kid, that reminded me of like, it's like, man, this is like wrestling or something.
Yeah, but just seeing how they fought, I mean, and I think to me, like I said, it's the duel, because we never seen Jedi fight like that, and it's like, oh wait, these are Jedi in their prime, and again, that forced me to go back with like watching the Episode 1 documentaries, getting the I think I might have that one book, the encyclopedia of Episode 1, that type of stuff. Like, that just forced me to be interested in saying, okay, what does all of this mean? How do they make this? That got me interested in maybe wanting to someday, at the time, maybe I want to get into like storytelling or like, that type of stuff. So again, Star Wars just made me more expressive as a kid and liking this type of stuff.
Yeah. So great question there by Chad. Again, you guys can send in your questions because as we get further into the year, we no longer have really things to review for now, so we're going to need some stuff to talk about. So feel free to send us in some questions. We'll be happy to take the time to respond and discuss those. So that is going to do it for this week's episode, Outer Rim Transmission number 22. Again, for you guys that are listening later, you can feel free to join us live and chat in the chat, just like we had all of the awesome live chatters, especially Chad sticking around the whole time. We had Steven Schinder, we had Amy, we had Alex in here, we had Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy, and we also had Red 5 Reviews, we had Adam in there. So a lot of people joining in on the conversation, just like we're a community here. We like to have those flowing conversations and share an enjoyment and the excitement of Star Wars, of course. So we, of course, will catch you next week. We aren't sure if we're going to be live next week, but we will have a show to some capacity. So be on the lookout for that at the very least. Do you guys have anything to promote or talk about this week? I'll start with Ben.
Nothing this week. I mean, you can just find me at the normal place at Real Ben Maynard on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find me here every week.
And Milton?
Really don't have nothing to promote this week. Find me on Twitter at MiltonWeber7. I will say the rumor and innuendo is that I heard Madden 22 ain't that good, Ben. But like I said, we'll get into that later. But find me on, like I said, Twitter, MiltonWeber7.
So there you go. That's going to do it for me, Milton, and Ben. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. That's going to be Outer Rim Transmission number 22. Transmission out. There we go.
There we go.